but we will be starting in the next few more seconds. So be sure to tell them to come right into the session. All right. So right now, the session is being live streamed. Thank you all so much for watching this. And I will now pass the floor to our lovely speaker, Madhuri. Madhuri, the stage is now yours. Take it away.
Hey, hi, thanks, Daniel. So, Daniel, you're able to see my screen, right? The slides which I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on Codeless automation. This is Madhuri Modi, and I'm an associate director having around 11 years of experience in the field of development and automation. So, let's go through the agenda for today. Yeah. So the agenda for this session is to understand what is codeless automation, what are its benefits and disadvantages, to understand whether to use code, low code or no code approach. And we will also see how an in-house tool can be created. Yeah, so let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, so most of you here would have heard this term codeless, right? So you may have heard some projects are using this codeless automation approach. So codeless automation, as the name implies, it refers to an approach where test cases are automated with a minimum of code or no code. So in short, you don't require excellent coders, as most of the tools which support this approach, they are record and playback tools. So, and they're actually equipped with machine learning and AI capabilities. So some of you must be thinking, we had Selenium IDE, so even that was codeless. But here, the codeless tools which I'm talking about, they are all feature-rich tools, okay? So they have many, many functionalities, and it's not just record and playback. So yeah, so when we say codeless, it's just codeless for people using it because it's hiding code under the hood. So the instructions which are given by the testers on the user interface level, they are actually translated into the code and executed at the backend. So the end user will not be able to see this, but actually this is done by that particular codeless tool. So for UI automation also, these tools, they have a screen recorder as well, which will, automate all your UI flows. So they give screenshots of web pages which you traverse through, whereas in Selenium WebDriver, we need to write code for it so that, the screenshots get generated. So you get it ready-made. So if we are using a programming language for automation, then we need to write code to read from an Excel file. So if we're using Java, we use POI. So, and there are operations like opening a file, closing a file. So just to give you an example, just consider these activities as a block. So these codeless tools, they give you an interface wherein you just put values into these blocks, and then the code runs behind the hood, executing the desired functionality. So you don't have to write the code for it. So even few codeless tools, right? They even have a sort of locker wherein you can store your passwords and all. So you don't have to write code explicitly for encryption and decryption. So, and also instead of writing the whole logic for database connections, for report generation, or integration with any third-party tools like say Jira or Jenkins. So these two codeless tools, they provide these functionalities inbuilt. Okay, some of these tools even have OCR capabilities also. So these are the features provided by most tools in market. But again, not all tools will be having the features. So you have to decide which ones you actually need. So some tools give you some features, some others give you some other features. But in common, most of the features are more or less similar. Okay. Yeah. So let's move on to the next slide. So yeah, benefits of codeless automation. Yeah. So firstly, it's easy to learn as these tools, they come with simplified documentation. So if you're buying a license for that tool, that particular support team will always help you out on how to use it. Secondly, no coding background is required. So any non-technical person understanding the logic can also work on automation. So you don't need someone who is good at a programming language. Then, yeah, it handles complex flows. So These tools create reusable test objects, due to which the handling of the complex flows becomes simpler. Okay, so even for UI automation, a repository gets created with test objects. For API automation, you just put the URL, just select a get or a post, and a call is made, and that response is returned. So you can integrate the front end and back end flows as well. Okay. Next is, then the tester can start automating the test cases as soon as the development is completed, without wasting much time in this complex coding. This makes it much easier to match the pace of the development cycle. Okay. Then it provides reusability. So test reusability is very simple in codeless automation, because the team members do not continuously write new scripts for different scenarios, as the functionality blocks or these modules can be used across. Okay. Also, the efforts of giving KT to a new resource is significantly reduced, because since it's easy to understand the flows created by different users, so new people can just come and pick up other people's flows and start working on it without other team members' help. So this is very beneficial, okay, especially when a resource leaves, because there's no dependency on him or her, since most of the tools are drag and drop or recording types. So the new joinee doesn't require a code walkthrough, basically. Okay. So also it's very easy to maintain as well. So yeah, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, so codeless tools, right? They can be cloud-based or they can be non-cloud-based. So earlier, for non-cloud-based tools, users used to download certain packages and all for these codeless testing tools. So a setup basically was required. So these kind of efforts, they can be minimized, or now these kind of efforts are basically not there. So these are the advantages using cloud-based tools, because these cloud-based tools, they provide strong computing power and storage capabilities. And now if you see, right, nowadays most of these tools are cloud-based. So let's see the benefits. So firstly, the most important one, it is highly scalable. Okay, so there is zero setup required for the testers to execute the script, and you can scale it up and down whenever you wish, whenever it's required. So it empowers multiple users to leverage the existing resources. Okay. Secondly is security. So cloud security is far more advanced when compared to the local on-prem security. So a local software installation, right, which actually runs on your machine, that lacks the necessary level of test data security. Okay. Third is the speed. So on cloud, there is robust infrastructure that can boost your test automation execution time. So this actually improves the performance to a great extent. Okay, so it's always better to go with a cloud-based solution. So these are the benefits, but yeah, codeless automation is not flawless. So let's move on to the disadvantages, right? So what are the disadvantages? Okay, so firstly, there's hardly any scope for customization. So since everything is done automatically, there is hardly any room for customization. So sometimes you have a functionality which is not present in the existing tool you are using. So you have to highly depend on a team which can, actually sort this out for you. So sometimes you have to, wait for days and days for this functionality to get implemented. So this is an issue if you want things to move at a faster pace. So though some tools now, they give you this customization option, but still this is the biggest challenge as of now. Okay? Because there are many things now which are involved in automation, and to support each and everything, that sometimes becomes really difficult for these tools. Okay. Secondly, it's difficult to debug. So think of a scenario wherein you're stuck up at some place. So for example, say on click of a button, there is some issue due to which the script has failed. So you will get the screenshot of this page, and some logs will also be provided by these automation tools, but you don't get the flexibility to debug it line by line. Okay, so you can't actually figure out what exactly went wrong. Okay, now there are some tools, okay, nowadays which manage to show you the backend generated code as well to debug, but this is not as deep as it would be like how you actually debug your actual Java code. Okay, so it's not going to be in that depth. Okay, thirdly, yeah, it may not always be 100% codeless all the time, because not everything can be achieved with the help of these inbuilt functionalities which a codeless tool gives. Okay, so many tools give the option to manually code as well. Okay, so at least some knowledge of programming is still required. Okay, if you want to do certain kind of customizations, certain tools actually provide certain functionalities where you can insert your Python script or a JavaScript or anything like that. So this kind of at least some programming knowledge is still required. See, learning programming is very beneficial and people should not be afraid of programming. Okay, so at least some basic knowledge of programming language is going to be useful, since you will have to customize in most cases. Okay, so please don't run away from coding. Yeah, this is just a piece of advice. Okay, so, and even some people think that if we have these feature rich tools, right, we don't require manual testing. So see, it's not magic. Okay, these tools are not magic. Even though the scripts are created automatically, this will not replace the manual testing. Okay, so manual testing will still be required. Okay? You can minimize the manual testing to some extent, but yeah, you cannot avoid it. Okay, someone had asked sometime, some days before, like, if once, if you can actually, even automate captcha. Okay, so you can't automate captchas. Okay, because they are not meant for automation. Okay, yeah. So the fourth one, right? It's some tools are really expensive. So obtaining the license. Okay, so this is a major issue, since some of these tools the cost is high. Then, because since see they have all these all types of AI ML built into it, so obviously the cost is going to be high for it. There's lots and lots of time and efforts which are put into designing these tools, so there is a price associated with it. So it would even need many approvals from the management. So if you are investing in a tool where a cost is associated, yeah, these things will have to be kept in mind. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So now the question arises, when to use what? Okay, so some of you must be wondering as in which approach to go for. So this analysis is very, very important, especially in the initial phases, okay, whether to go codeless or not. So there are different factors which have to be taken into consideration. Example, the project expenditure, the skill set of the team members, the complexity of the application, scalability, and how fast new features are required. So on that basis, have classified into different categories. So let's have a look at them. So first is when to use automation which involves coding. Okay, so when you have resources that are skilled in a programming language, or acquiring a license for a commercial tool is difficult. You need something that's freeware, or if your application is completely backend, requiring lots of calculations, mocking certain kind of structures, then think of going with this approach. Okay, then think of using code. Sometimes you even have clients, right, who say, hey, look, I don't want to invest in a commercial tool. You provide me an open source solution. You even try convincing them, right, for a codeless tool. But yeah, if they aren't convinced, then you have to use this coding approach. Yeah. So yeah. Secondly, yeah, the market available feature-rich tools. So yeah. So when you have resources, if you have resources that are, they don't have good programming knowledge, like, because in general, like if you see the market available tools, like you have Axel Q, you have Catalan Studio, Perfecto, and many others. Okay, there are many other tools as well. So in general, some of the features provided by these tools, they are common. Okay, only the format or approach is different. Some of these tools are even cloud-based also. So some tools have, significantly very, very good features as compared to others. Okay, so in case in your project, if the resources are not skilled in any programming language, then, and your project has a good budget also, okay, and scalability, right? Scalability is very important for you. Then go with this approach, okay? Or any of the other benefits also which we discussed, right? If you feel that you actually need those things, then you go with these approach. Especially if without using customization, only using inbuilt functionalities and your flow is ready, okay, then you can surely opt for this. Even if your project is new and the work is mostly UI automation side, example web or mobile, then these tools can actually do wonders. Okay, so most big MNCs also, right? They actually have tie up with some of these companies, who provide these codeless solutions. So you just call them up for a demo, use their trial version, do a POC, and check the fitment of various tools for your project. So they have different cost model as per your needs. Also, if there are other projects in your company who are using any of these tools and you have a team who can guide you on this, then go ahead with this approach, as you can get support for any sort of request. Okay, so especially get in touch with your center of excellence or your capability teams for this. Also, these tools, they can be actually used across various applications. So if you have a requirement wherein you need to automate various applications on web and mobile, then it's better to go with these tools, as I earlier also said, they are highly scalable. Okay, if code-based regression test, if they are working fine for you, then you can choose to avoid codeless automation. But for a fresh test suite, I think codeless automation works best when it comes to user interface. So yeah, give it a try that way. Thirdly, yeah, we have low-code tools. So as earlier discussed, right, these tools, like they have capability of record and playback, and like what all things we discussed earlier, but they possess an extra feature to customize the flow to some extent. Okay, so they give you a feature wherein you can actually write the code, write this manual code. Okay, these tools are best available ones in the market now, as they add a layer of customization as well. So if your project demands this, then you need to have few people in the team knowing at least some kind of a programming language or having some kind of programming knowledge. Even RPA tools, right? Robotic process automation tools like Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere. So these tools allow creating flows for repetitive tasks, and some of these tools even provide these features which we already discussed. So you can check on them as well. Okay. Now let's move on to the next slide. Yeah. So see, it's not always necessary that you require all the features that a codeless tool provides. So acquiring a license isn't always a good option, especially for a non-complex single and a small application. Also, if you have good programmers, then instead of using market available tools, use a better in-house approach. Okay, so that if any feature is required, then the request goes to the in-house team to implement it, and the process is faster. Also, this allows use of open source solutions, okay, in your project. You won't get all the good features which a codeless tool provides, since this approach which we are discussing isn't codeless. Okay, so this will just give you an idea. If in case you don't wish to go with the market available tools, then what you should do, especially for backend flows. Okay, so splitting this into two approaches. The first approach, say you have some average to good programmers and some non-programmers in your team. So you divide them into two teams. One will be a framework team who will be responsible for writing the functionality and adding the features as well. And whenever these new features come, right, they will be implementing it. Okay, and there will be another team. Okay, and this other team would simply call these functions and execute the script. Okay. One such simple approach is using BDD approach like Cucumber, wherein the framework team writes the code which depicts the functionality, provides the keywords in plain English language to the other team. Okay. So you can see the file, right, which is actually mentioned on the slide. So that's called a feature file. So the sentences which you see are extremely simple to understand. So for example, say user is on the home page. So there will be a code which the URL opens in a browser. For user enters text, there will be an XPath for the element to enter the text in the text box. So similarly, there is code for clicking a button and a validation code for a successful message. Also, the values in the codes, they are parameterized, so you can put any values in that. But yeah, the underlying code will remain the same. So not going into much detail as how it's done, since that's not our actual agenda. But the idea here is that you write the code for each sentence and pass that sentence to the functional team. So you can actually write code related to complex, calculations and mocking structures. And this code will be written by the framework team. Okay, the example is given for the front-end automation, but this approach can be used if you're doing back-end automation as well. Okay, so there is a code associated with each sentence, basically, which gets executed, and this this code is written by the framework team. So for example, say from this framework team will write the code, give the keyword or sentence to the other team. Okay, like this, all the sentences, right, or all the keywords which the framework team has actually built. So all such sentences will be maintained on a Confluence or a shared location, wherein the other team picks up the sentences and creates the flow. Okay, so it's fine if the other team doesn't understand programming language, since the main advantage of codeless tools is that you don't need programmers. So here in this case, for the second team, just knowing simple English is sufficient. Okay. Also, it's reusable, since one functionality can be used across multiple buttons or text boxes, and you can also run your test cases in bulk using example keywords, and Cucumber gives you an inbuilt reporting as well. So only thing, it doesn't have a GUI, it doesn't have a graphical user interface, so it's not rightly called as a tool, but it's like an approach. Okay, you can add your own layer of customization on the top of this to make it more effective and user friendly. Again, this will be having a disadvantage that you can't use it across applications, as you have designed it for just one application, or it can support applications that have a similar DOM structure or similar functionality. To extend it to other applications built on other technologies, again, the framework team would have to incorporate these kind of requests. But this approach works best if it's regression, since you will hardly have to code. Okay. So let's discuss the second approach. So if you have excellent coders in your QA team, okay, or there are good developers or architects that are available for help, then create a front to back end automation tool. Okay. For this, there has to be few resources, knowing front-end technologies like React or Angular, and knowing back-end technologies like Spring or any such technology. I'm a Java fan, so I'm using Java as an example. Like, that's where I've actually used. Okay. So yeah, then create a tool. Okay. You need to create a tool which has a proper UI. Okay. Wherein, say, you have drop downs for selecting values, text boxes for entering values, and have a trigger. Okay. So this trigger could be like a submit button. So when you click on submit, so then a REST call is made, the code runs behind, you get a response, the results are shown on the UI for that particular test case. Okay. So for this, right, there has to be an in-house tool team. Okay. And if you have, sort of only manual testers in the team, so then they would be actually, they would find it easy to just put the values and check the results on the tool. So the efforts taken by the tooling team here will be high. So go for this approach only if there are many applications, large number of testers or teams who will be using this tool. If not, then you can use the first approach as well. Okay, the only thing, you will not have a UI on. in certain companies, right, this sort of a tooling team exists. Okay, so if not, then you need to evaluate whether creating your in-house tool will be more feasible or using the market available ones will be more feasible. Okay, so to summarize it, right, so different projects are at different maturity stages. So the codeless automation tools have done wonders, okay, no doubt about it. They have evolved significantly using all sorts of AI techniques. And, one single tool can support web, mobile, and multiple applications and can scale very well. So consider to give this codeless automation a thought, especially if your project is at an initial stage. Okay, and especially if your project is more sort of on UI automation side. Okay, so if that's the requirement, then go for these tools. Else, evaluate which approach works best for you. So I hope this session has given you insights on codeless automation, and hope this session helps you in analyzing which approach works best for you. So yeah, thanks so much, our lovely audience, and I can take up the questions now. And thanks QA community for streamlining this complete process. So yeah, I can take up any questions.
All right, sure thing. Thank you so much, Madhuri, to you as well from the QA Talks community for being our speaker. We really appreciate the contribution that you're giving to the QA community as well. And you're right, we will now head over to the Q&A session. So the first question here is from Anandita. She asks, in which case we should use no code, and in which case we should use low code?
Okay, so I had actually covered this in one of the slides. So
yeah,
if there's no code, right? So say you have a simple UI automation flow, okay, and you just have a screen recorder which is present, okay, and just with the help of that screen recorder, your complete flow gets generated. Okay, you are traversing from pages to pages, and with this screen recorder, the complete flow gets generated. So you don't actually have to use any kind of coding in this approach. Okay, so in those cases, you can use this no code approach, and many codeless tools are actually giving this feature of this screen recording stuff. When to use low code is basically when there are certain inbuilt functionalities cannot help you out. Okay, so for example, say that there is a functionality to do something, say sort of calling some function, or especially mocking certain structures or things like that, or especially these kind of things you will especially have in backend flows. Okay, so over there it is important that you use certain kind of scripting languages to insert your code in between. So you actually have a they actually give you something like a JavaScript or a Python code can be inserted into your actual flow. So in such things, you can go for these low code approaches.
Right, well answered. And our next question is from Akshit Tomar. He asks, do we have any codeless approach used for mobile application testing?
Yeah, so these tools, right, like Perfecto and all, like they have their own, or they even have their own cloud, and they actually there are many tools, in fact, which actually support web as well as these mobile automation tools. So you can actually check this out. They actually have certain so there are many mobile devices which are available in the market. So they actually have the simulators and everything which is present. So you can run your script across various mobile automation tools which are available.
All right, fantastic. And that concludes our Q&A session. Oh no, we have one more. Very good. We have from Kaustup Abhyankar. He asks, can we get list of codeless tools available with their features and costs?
Yeah, so I don't have that slide ready, but there are different tools which have different costs which are associated. At the same time, if your company has tie up with any of these codeless automation tools people, then obviously the cost will decrease for that. If you are just starting with a codeless tool, so they have different cost models, right? So you have a trial version which is free. Then you have certain versions wherein they say that only these features will be available to you. So then you can go for that approach. If you want feature-rich codeless automation tool, you want everything into it, then there's a different cost model. So there are different cost models which are available. So you can possibly just Google it out, or because I don't have that slide available with me right now, wherein I can give you actual comparison for different tools. So yeah, so because that was not in the agenda, so I didn't actually have that slide.
All right, nice, no problem. We do have a question coming from the lobby. So very great to hear that we have audiences coming from the lobby side, and great to hear that you're still engaged. The question from the lobby is, do we have any ready tools or framework who supports driving BDD features file via UI? Example, using AngularJS.
So these kind of BDD frameworks, right? So we normally use wherein you have certain functionalities which you actually so it's just a layer. Okay, so it's like when you have something written in Selenium, but that coding is not understood by many people. So this BDD approach will just serve you as a documentation. So you have to use it. It's very simple to use. Okay, this API. And Cucumber is really very simple to use. You just have to import this, and you have certain jars which you have to include in your Maven dependency, and then you can actually write these codes. Even if you have, I would recommend, even if you have a Selenium framework, right, and that design is like sort of a modular programming. And you have specific modules like for clicking of a button, or for entering text into text boxes. In such approach, this BDD will add as a layer. You just have to call this API, and there's basically a runner class. You just have to run this runner class, and the sentences which you've written, they actually they are guided by the step definition and the glue code, and it just runs. So there is one framework called as robot framework. Also, if you see, the sentences are almost like in a simple English. So you can explore these kind of tools, but that is again it involves Python. So yeah.
All right, sounds good. Oh, we have a couple more questions. However, we are running on time regarding the Q&A session, but not to worry. For all of you, thank you so much for typing in your questions in the Q&A box. We really love hearing all of your questions, but just as you can see in the chat box that I put in earlier, but I'll put it in again for everyone. All the questions that we did not manage to cover in our Q&A session, not to worry, you can just join our Discord channel where we will cover the rest of these Q&As that were here left over with us. So thank you so much for putting in your questions. And Madhuri, any thank yous to our audience or last statements that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I hope this session is useful for you, as in what exactly you need to use when, because there are many things coming in the market, and the question basically goes, there's so many things, but what where should we go, like what approach we should use when. So I hope this session has given you an insight, and there are many more sessions which are lined up. So please do attend those sessions as well. So this is a complete codeless, codeless automation conference which is going on. So there are many things which are going to get covered. So yeah, and thanks for being so patient. And we had a lovely audience, obviously. And thanks QA community, and thank you, Daniel.
Thank you to you as well, Madhuri, for being here with us. So just to recap for everyone, thank you Vijay and Amir for your questions. We will answer them in the Discord channel. And Martin Roman for putting in the Q&A box the list of low-code tools, courtesy of Abstracta. Thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate that's what I love to see from the QA community for the QA community. So everyone, if you want to see a list of low-code tools, look in the Q&A box and you'll see a question from a comment from Martin Roman. And he has given us a list of low-code tools. So thank you to that. And now I would like to invite Manish, our quiz master, to host the quiz session regarding Madhuri's session. All right, Manish, the virtual stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Daniel, and really appreciate that, Madhuri. It's very insightful, the information which we have shared. Let's see means how audience was engaged.
Yeah, thanks,
during.
Manish.
Okay, so let me start sharing it. So, guys, this is the leaderboard from the last quiz, and hope you all are ready. And I would again say that still you have a chance. You can scan the code, or you can go to the slido.com and join this event for this quiz. So if you are ready, let's start then. So very first question, guys. Let's see. Okay, some people are not agree. Okay. Next question. Strongly agree? Yes. Ready for next question? Here you go. I believe no. Some people say yes. Let's see. Okay. So ready for next? Here you go. I want 100% for this. Still. Okay. So guys, final question for the session. Be ready. Here you go. %83 says can't say. So ready for check the answer? Yes. So guys, ready for the leaderboard? Let's see who is in top 5 now. Okay, there's slight change in the leaderboard, I believe.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you guys for participating and stay with us. Over to you, Daniel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Manish, for the quiz. And thank you again so much to Madhuri Modi, our speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Yeah, thanks.
All right, everyone. So this concludes the session by Madhuri. Now, just gentle reminders to everyone. If you are watching this session from your mobile device, please do switch over to your desktop or browser version so that you can best experience the Zoom events, as Zoom events is best experienced on desktop or your PC, okay? So that's number one. Number two, I will be ending this session, which means all of you will be teleported back to the lobby, and from the lobby is where you will get to go manually enter the session that will be held by Anuradha Raman, who will be talking about automation past, bugs found, time to rethink conventional test automation. That will be her session. And lastly, this will be hosted by our next host, which I will be passing on, who is named Saravanan. So everyone, thank you so much. I'll now end the session and see you guys in the next session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.